What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Devil's Bit. You're with myself, Glenn, and Ray. And just in case you forget, both names are down the bottom of the screen, yeah? The transfer window opened up on Tuesday. And as ever, United have been linked with a lot of players and we're invested in this merry-go-round or circus, some people might call it. But we're in for Jadon Sancho anyway. And there's a little bit of deja vu around this transfer as it seems to be mirroring what happened last year with the Jadon Sancho incident. And what we're going to look at is for Fabrizio Romano, as you call him, Ray, the GOAT transfers, tweeted about the deal. And this is what he had to say. Manchester United reached an agreement with Sancho's camp on personal terms until 2026. Jadon is not creating any problem. Negotiations now starting with Borussia Dortmund. 95 million price, no agreement yet. Obviously, Ray, that means no agreement between the two clubs, but I suppose it's good to see that Sancho's happy maybe to move to Old Trafford. So what do you think of this? Like, are we in for a long haul here? Are we gonna get him in quick, or is this gonna drag right through to the start of the next season?
You know what, Glenn? I think some of them terms and all have had to be sorted or had to remain in place since last year. Like the progress I think that the club's making with this transfer approach towards Sancho, I don't think it's great at the moment. Like, and I get the side that the Euros are going ahead, and if you're the manager of England, you wouldn't want any distractions, and you'd probably have a say in that. But it's slow again, isn't it? I mean, we said this during the season. We'd love when this transfer market comes around and opens up. We'd love to see a little bit more progression than we have been seeing, and it's not the case at the moment. But I do understand the fact that the Euros are on, and the fact that the managers of the international teams will have a say and will not want any disruption or anything on the players' mind, rather just being in the camp and being focused for what's to come. But yeah.
No, Ray, I just look at it and I think, look, it's great to see that Sancho sort of all right with the deal. Like, you know what I mean? He doesn't seem to have a problem with it. Dortmund have laid out their terms. They want 90 million euro. They've set a deadline like they set a deadline last year. And, we've had a bid of 67 million pound torn down, the first the opening bid torn down, which would be expected because, 90 million euros and pounds is about 78, 79 million. So we're a good 10, 11 million off the asking price. But for me, I'm looking and I'm saying, I'm glad to see that we're trying to, get deals done or, show our interest in players early because I want to get players in as early as we can so we can move on to the next target. Because there's one thing that I think we've done wrong or that we can't get right at the moment when we're dealing with transfers is we can't seem to negotiate more than one deal at a time. So I don't want this dragging on all throughout the summer when we've a centre-back to probably bring in and maybe a striker, that way. So I don't know what all the dilly-dallying is about. I mean, Dortmund have told us what they want, how much they want, how they want it done. We've seen how stubborn they are from last year. So for me, if we want Sancho, pay the money. If the money is there, pay it. Don't be trying to look and save every euro or anything. You know what I mean? Because that's just going to drag it on. I mean, we've seen that with Harry Maguire and Leicester. Leicester wanted 80 million. We didn't want to give the 80 million, but then we ended up giving it. But you want the likes of Sancho to be able to. I know the Euros are going on now, so it's probably not going to happen. But you want them to be able to, if we are to sign him, and if things are all right on his end, and it's just between the two clubs, to maybe be able to get him in straight after the Euro, so we can go on a little bit of a holiday or break, and then come into the squad straight away and get a good pre-season under his belt with his new teammates and everything. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. I mean, I look at maybe Chelsea under Mourinho the second time when they won the league in his second season, in the second spell, and he got the likes of Costa and Fabregas in early. And that's something we haven't really gotten the grips of, really. Isn't it not like we get the players in early and get the squad together?
Yeah, I think that's what it takes. And Ollie said it himself. We do need 3 players that are ready to go and just jump straight into the squad if you want to compete. And I mean, properly compete, like not spending a lot of time out with the top 4 and then making a push when other teams fall around you. You want to be there. You want to be in top four all the way through, and you want to, challenge for that league, because that's the next step. And if that's not the next step, then fingers will be pointed, especially the way this season's ending with the Europa League. So I think, the Glazers know that, and Ollie knows that. Most importantly, Ollie knows that. So he has to be pushing for this and start being a bit more aggressive towards getting what he wants, because it's his last straw, I think.
Yeah, and right, the Glazers as well. Like when you think about it, everything that's happened, the protests, the fan forum where Joe Glazer addressed the fans for the first time in 16 years. You know what I mean? This is a chance to show, look, we are willing to invest in the players that the manager wants. Obviously, Ollie wants Sancho in the door, and I think that if we are to sustain a title challenge next season, forget about winning it for a minute. Just sit down.
Yeah.
Jesus.
You know
what I mean? Keep up with the likes of City. Make sure we're in it right up until May. You know what I mean? Into that squeaky bum time, and see what we can do with it. I just don't want. If it drags on into the summer, it just makes us look bad. Do you know that way? Like that's the way we see it.
I'll be surprised, Glenn. Honestly, I'll be surprised if there's that, before announced before England play.
No, I don't think so, Ray. No, I think that's
and then you're thinking, can you announce it, Jordan? Is that a good idea? Can you announce that, Jordan? So you're looking at the end of the Euros, or whenever England crash out, which everyone's saying is the quarterfinals and nothing past that. So it's going to be an interesting one to see what happens there, because they do have a good squad, and I'm buzzing for it to be able to keep an eye on some of these and get back into some football, because the break has been a bit mad, to be honest. And I mean, no football really for a little bit.
The thing that's going for us, I suppose, this year, this transfer window is that if we are to get Sancho in, the Euros are being held in England. Like England are playing their games at Wembley and all. So
yeah, they've a lot of group games at Wembley, haven't they? Until they get out of the group stages, and then. But who knows?
I mean, it'd be easy for him to get a medical done and all after the Euros anyway, because he's already in the country and everything.
Well, yeah, that's a good shout there. Like you could say, everything is agreed. Like, given it, like he's a new player if the medical turns out all right. Because that's imagine sorting some out now and then bad injury happens to Sancho. And you have to take the player like that. It's a bit.
Look, we've been here before, Ray. We've been here before. He agreed. He supposedly agreed personal terms last summer.
Yeah.
And we were waiting on the two clubs to, whack out a deal. The thing that's mad to me is, right, and like it's, you have a player under contract in Sancho, and a couple of years ago, Ray, you know what I mean? That'd be seen as tapping a player up if you went to a player and agreed personal terms and then went to a club. You know what I mean? People would be giving out about that. But now you're looking at it and it's gone the other way, where you're agreeing personal terms with the player first, and then you have to go and battle it out with the clubs. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't think Dortmund are going to lower that price. I think what's happening is the add-ons. I think it's 90 million up front, and then there's 5 million add-ons or something like that. And I think you need to want to, spread that out over a couple of years, and Dortmund want it quicker than United are willing to give it. That's what I think is the sticking point at the minute. That's what's been reported.
I just think, honestly, 100 million is a bit much for Sancho.
You say that, right?
Look, it's not my money, and it's not your money. It's the Glazers' money. So that part of me says, listen, they took enough out of the club, so invest. But if you're thinking, you know what I mean, if you were the owner of Manchester United and you're buying a player's 21, great player, great prospect, but 100 million is mad money. So I get the fact that they're trying to, and I said before, don't be messing around for 5 and 10 million, you know what I mean? But this time around, play it out, be smart about it a little bit. That's what my gut feeling is saying. Like, I just think he's a United player no matter what. Like, it's done. I have this feeling that next season he'll be putting on that United shirt. The surprise last season I didn't see. And then the links were always there with us. There was always talks during the season, and Sancho this, Sancho that, if they had had Sancho, and just kind of kept it in the back of your mind saying that there's a possibility that we won't give up on this. So I think they've had enough time, Glenn, considering the fact that, you know, we know how the club deals with these sort of big signings. Like you were just saying with Maguire, Bruno, you know, when they didn't go for him, and then we found ourselves into trouble, not being able to get past a certain hurdle, not being able to break down teams, and then Bruno comes in and lights the place on fire. And, you know, I think they should have learned by now, you know.
Do you
And
think, Ray, do you think that we're going down a bit of a dodgy road in terms of Sancho's contract that seems to be on the table? It's a 5-year deal, and then
it's
it's
350.
350 grand a week. Do you think that's do you
You know,
think that's a mistake there? Yeah.
that's fire alarms, bro. We've been trying to get away from that. Look at the
Yeah.
situation we're in with De Gea now, and who would have thought that?
Yeah.
You know, great keeper, made it. You know, made it for us. Got through the hard times. He has a little bump in the road, and he's a bit hit and miss. And now you're talking about we can't get him out of the club. You know, who's going to take De Gea if he doesn't want to be here?
Well, there's talk of De Gea saying that he's going to see out this season anyway with United. He's looking to stay anyway. Like, so, you know, in terms of that, I don't think De Gea is going anywhere for the moment anyway. But I was listening to Jadon Sancho talking on TalkSport, right? He done an interview with him.
Yeah.
And he comes across real well, to be honest with you. He's only 21, but there seems to be a huge amount of maturity in him, like, I think. You know what I mean? He didn't you know, he wasn't stuttering, or, you know, where young players go up there and they're touching their face and they're rubbing their ears and all that sort of thing.
He's only 21, Glenn, right? He's only 21, but he was brave in making that move and getting out, because I think he could have played for a lot of English clubs when he left City, no doubt. And then to make that move, going away abroad, different language, different ball game, completely, and to step up and pull through and be among some good players in that Dortmund squad, even the players that have left. You know, and since then, players that have left, the likes of Pulisic and all, this season, and he's been having to play all over the pitch, and he's handled it. So, you know, he's definitely a United player. He'd fit right in, no doubt. The money thing, I thought never hear me say myself say it, but the money thing it's mad. Like 100 million, what on add-ons as well.
No, it's 90 million. It's 90 million euros, Ray, which is around. It's around. We'll round it off at 80 million, say. It's around 78, between 78 and 80 million, and then there is the 5 million. Then that's what they're saying. They are the add-ons. I don't know what way Dortmund want to spread out. I don't know what bonuses there is, whether he wins things or not. You know what I mean? But that's what they're saying. So we're looking at about 80 million. Pounds. Yeah. So it's not the 100 million that was getting set, or the 100 and odd million, whatever it was last year.
120
has lost, dropped that price a little bit. But I don't think that there's any leeway in that now. There's no negotiating that price. That is the price. So I'm saying to myself, either if we're interested in him and all he wants him and all he thinks he's good enough to play in the team and to bring us on to what we need, then we should be paying it, or else move on to the next one. Do you know what I mean? Because what we've done in the past is we've gone with players and it hasn't worked out in the negotiations and all, and then we're struggling then to get the players we need in, and we start going for, you know, older players. Like, I know Cavani is an example. I know he worked out, but, you know, he definitely wasn't the first choice. So you don't want that. And the other thing is, Ray, is like, we're crying out for a right winger. Like, when you think about the last right wingers that we had, it's like Nani, who signed in 2007. And then, you know, left in 2014-15. And you had Valencia as well, who signed in the summer of 2009. You know what I mean? And, you know, we converted him into a right back. So we haven't had a right winger in a good 5 or 6 years. So it's a position that needs to be filled in. So if we want to get him, just go and get him. That's the way I look at it, because there's no point trying to negotiate this deal. It's not going to work out. They won't drop it. They're going to
honestly, I feel like he will be a United player next season. I just know. I think I just know it. But I am concerned about the fact that the 350 million wage, the money, okay, you know.
350,000, yeah.
That's what I mean.
You tell that.
And but the 100 million price tag or the 90 million price tag, okay, we paid that before, you know, and it's not our money. But the 350 grand a week, that could cause problem in the squad, bro.
Well, the thing is, right, I've listened, as I said, I was listening to an interview on TalkSport, and he was asked in it, like, who was your England heroes? growing up. And he said Frank Lampard, and he says, "Oh, I'm not afraid to admit that I was a Chelsea fan." Now he wasn't. I don't think he was putting himself out there to Chelsea, like to say, "Look, come and get me." You know what I mean? I'm interested or whatever. I don't think it was anything like that. I genuinely think he was being honest. But is that a worry now, like that? If he does have a good Euros and more dilly dallying over 10 million, does a team like Chelsea come in and take him off Dortmund's hands, and does that leave us with egg on our face?
Yeah, that's the possibility. If you mess around and you play around too much, you have these bigger sharks in the transfer market lurking around and just waiting. It all it comes down to Sancho actually. Who does he want to play for? And the fact that he came out and said that I'm not afraid to admit that I'm a Chelsea fan maybe means that I'm a United player, but I like to think I'm a United player, but I'm a
Well,
Chelsea
as we
fan.
said, Ray, if you're looking at it, if you're going by your man Fabrizio Romano, last season he said the exact same things. You know what I mean, personal teams are agreed with the players between the two clubs. Now he's saying it again. So for me, that's telling me that Sancho wants to come, and like he's not going to push Dortmund there. He's not going to push Dortmund to sell him or not. You know what I mean? Which is a credit to him, because you do have players out there that would force through him off. Obviously, he's looking at Dortmund. What you said, you know what I mean? He left the city at a young age. He could have went to English clubs. He didn't. He went over to Dortmund. You have to respect Dortmund. They do bring on youngsters, do you know what I mean? Their own youngsters and other people's youngsters. You look at Jude Bellingham going over there and everything, you know what I mean? He's in the England squad. But yeah, it's quality stuff. But for me, we have to get the deal over the line. And as I said, I'm looking at him and I'm saying that he looks very positive, and I think he'd be absolutely brilliant for the dressing room. That's the way I'm looking. That's the impression I got off him when I watched it. He seems like he's a good head and the shoulders. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think the price tag, the 90 million, would phase him. I really don't. I think he'd be like water off the duck's back. That's how confident he looked just sitting in front of the camera. You know what I mean? I think it's something that we don't really see in young English players when they're coming through. And he's 19 caps for England. So he's in that England squad at the moment. He's sort of in the middle. Like, he's not a veteran, but because that England squad is a young squad, he does seem to have a little bit of experience at international level. Like, do you know what I mean? When you're looking at him going into the Euros.
He's going to get some more game time, even more experience. Look, yeah, he looks ready. He looks ready. Like I said, I think, we'll hold down. We will, again, we will haggle for that 5-10 million. And, because Dortmund, they're stubborn like that, they got 120 million for Dembele when he went to Barcelona. Hard money. And look what happened to him, So they'll hold out, and they know the only thing that's against them is that there's only 2 years left, if I'm not mistaken, on his contract. So next season it becomes shaky. If they don't let him go, then they lose out on a lot more money.
Yeah, but you know what I think it is, Ray? I think last year Sancho was Dortmund's baby, like, and this year Haaland is. Do you know what I mean? That's the way it works. So I think, they're looking at it and saying, look, if we're going to lose any of them, we'll lose Sancho. We're at the getting everything we can out of him. Do you know what I mean? He's been good for us over the last 3 seasons. Let him go and get another season out of Haaland. That's the way I see it. But when you look at the United squad, Ray, if Sancho comes in, like, what would that mean for the likes of Rashford and Greenwood and Ahmad? Do you know what I mean? Like, does that like, what does that do for them? Like, because we've seen Ollie Tinker with Rashford, and he had him out on the left and he had him out on the right for a while. Sancho coming in there, does that like say to Rashford, look, you're either out on the left or you're going through the middle? Does it like, you know what I mean?
Well, you think about it, Glenn, you said it before, and rightly so, Rashford's best position, and he's the most happiest when he plays off the left. And we've seen a lot of Sancho off the right-hand side. So it seems like that would be the formation and the players in them positions going forward. But I would like to see a bit of free-flowing stuff as well. They both played opposite sides, and they both like to, shoot, come in off that right-hand side and shoot, and they both have that ability. So, imagine that, that'd be devastating. If you're any back four in the Premier League, and you're looking at the sheet and the game time, and you're seeing Sancho, you're seeing Rashford, you're seeing Bruno, Cavani, who knows? Who knows? I'd
And
highly doubt it for a striker.
does
That's
if
right.
Sancho comes in, does that mean that Greenwood then becomes that number 9? You know what I mean? And probably learns from Cavani, like, do you know what I mean? So we can
Yeah,
sort of
yeah. I
save
wouldn't
Cavani
even be.
for the big huge games. Not saying that Greenwood couldn't cut it in the big games, but just we can use Cavani when we
Yeah,
genuinely need it. Do you know
I
what I mean?
think
There's not
it's a
pushing into it.
smart. It's smart to do that. I think that's smart to keep Cavani fit as much as possible by using Greenwood, and it's a win-win for both players, isn't it? When
Yeah.
you know that you can take Cavani off for an hour, or vice versa,
Mm,
and have Greenwood come on. And every time I seen Greenwood come on this year, he's made an impact, and he's
yeah.
always looked lively. Always keeps the keeper guessing. Like Ollie says, he goes left, he goes right.
Yeah, man. The thing
So
is about the thing is about Greenwood is
fantastic.
when he's in that when he's in the box or in that number 9 position, he always seems to, hit the target. Look, so
Yeah,
it could be a good chance for Greenwood to finally get into that number 9 position for the whole season. You know what I mean? Obviously, Cavani's there. If we're not to bring in another striker, personally, if we did get Sancho, I don't think we should bring in another striker. I really don't. I think we should go with Cavani
yeah,
and
no,
Greenwood as our number 9s and just rotate them.
definitely.
Do you know what I
That's
mean?
enough, Glenn. You know what I mean? That's
Mm.
enough. And then don't forget, man, we still have Martial to come
Yeah,
back.
yeah, as well.
People are sleeping on that. Like, I don't know what the story is, and I don't know what they expect with the way the season ended. But
Mm.
Martial's still quality, and
There's a lot of people out there, Ray, saying he's not, though. You know what I mean? Like when you look at your Facebook page, the Devil's Bay, and then the Devil's Bay Club, you look at some of the things that go in there, and even the Manchester United supporters here, Facebook group. When you're in there and you're involved in the chats and all, there's a lot of people saying, like, give Martial away. You know what I mean? Player plus cash and all that sort of stuff. When we were supposed, not in for Kane, but when Kane was, hinting that he wanted to leave Spurs and all that, and obviously United needed a number 9 or whatever. Those people saying, give, Martial plus
yeah.
cash and all that
No, I
sort of stuff.
agree. He's been off the boil a little bit, Glenn. I honestly think it's not, and you probably agree with me here. It's not like a quality issue with Martial. It's an attitude issue. I think it's
Can that
about
change though, Ray? Can that
eh?
change? Can he? Is he at a stage now where he can change that? Like we see him in
Mm,
at the end of not the season just gone, but the season before that when it was Project Restart and all that, and he came back, he looked on fire. You know what I mean? He looked
yeah,
unplayable at times.
and
This
then
season he couldn't really get his confidence going for whatever reason. That could
and
have been
then you
that
get
going on.
subbed off, Glenn. You get you've seen it. You get subbed off, and he's questioning it. Why am I getting taken off here when I'm playing well? But sometimes you're not. It's not because you're not playing well, and you know that yourself. And it's because you might need a rest. I
Mm,
think these are the small little things that lets him down.
yeah,
He comes across like he doesn't care, but maybe in the brain he cares a little bit too much about the small things.
yeah.
I look back to Mourinho and there's some, when he said that it's a mentality issue and it's an immaturity with Martial and he's just not there at the moment. And maybe he didn't progress from that stage on to where some of the players in the squad are now. Maybe he's just a little bit unhappy at times and it's hindered with his progression. But if you're looking and you're thinking Cavani first choice, Greenwood second choice, and
I think you
Cavani
split
on
them
that
two, Ray.
pedestal as well. Yeah,
I
and
think you
then
split them.
yeah, it's have that luxury to be able to,
Okay, yeah.
and have Martial on that pedestal as well, and not put a number on him and say he's third choice, but make him fight for that position and make him produce some of that magic that kept him in the squad.
But the Martial can always go out onto the left as well, though, Ray. You know what I mean? He's not stuck to that number
Yeah,
9 position. He could move out onto the left. There could be competition for Rashford again. It just gives us squad depth, which is something
yeah,
we haven't really had over the last couple of seasons. It definitely caught up with us at the end of last season, anyway. The season just gone. But just before we move on from this Sancho thing, and just in terms of the players that it might affect, Ahmed, how would you see that going? Do you think he'll have a place in the squad, or do you think we might end up sending him out on loan to get a bit of
loan wouldn't be a bad shout, Glenn. If you can get him on loan the other way, maybe bring Sancho in and send Ahmad on loan the other way and put down some of the price. I think that's a very good idea, and
Yeah.
great if they're working on something like that, because Dortmund have this history of promoting players, and we've seen it, and they stick by them, and they young players, talented young players, strive in that environment. So it would be great for Ahmad to go the other way and see what sort of player he could come back. When he's bigger built, because we've seen players get stuck into him, and we've seen players sort of bounce off him at times as well. It's just nice to see for a small lad. So who knows what type of player he can come back, after a good loan of playing, against some tough opposition in that league, and then getting some Champions League time as well. It can only help. But even if it doesn't happen with Dortmund, it'd be nice to see him go somewhere for as a loan option, because I don't see, with Sancho in the squad, if it does happen, you don't really see that much time coming his way in the team there. Don't know.
No, well, look, I can't see him getting a run of consistent games. That's the thing. I can see him, coming on here and there, probably getting, a run out in the League Cup. But I think he'd be one of them players where even if he is doing well or does well in a game, I don't think with Sancho coming in, if Sancho was to come in, that he'd be able to force his way through. And I think it'd be one of them, you play well, but you're benched for the next game, which you don't know what sort of effect that's going to have on a player, that way, like, you know what I mean? Because he could be thinking, I deserve to be starting, or what do I have to do to keep me place? I said it before, I like him. I think he just needs to fill out a little bit. You know what I mean? I don't think he's physically up to it yet, although he is brave. Seeing him going in on players twice the size of him against Wolves and all that. So I think a loan move would be the right choice for him. And
the only thing I'd question, Glenn, is like if you're at to coming in for 40 million and you're getting sent out on loan, what sort of message are you getting from that? Like,
well, look, I look at it this way, Randy. He seems to have settled in real well at the club. And you look at what he done there for the Ivory Coast. He scored the last, I think it was in the 97th minute. He scored a stunner of a free kick. Bruno went on to Twitter and congratulated him on it, and he wrote underneath that I learned from you. So I mean, he's definitely comfortable, like that way, and he's not getting too big for his boots. And I think that was great to say that back to Bruno. Do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't think he'd be too downbeat about not playing. I think if Ollie explained to him, like, look, we want you here and everything, but it's better that you get game time under your belt. You know what I mean? Look, if it didn't work, look, I mean that Dortmund shout, Ray, is a good shout. If they were interested in it, if they weren't, I would like to see him go to a Premier League club. Do you know what I mean? See what he's made of. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and there's a lot of clubs in for him. Yeah, that's a good shout as well, because you want the physicality, don't you? If you're saying that's what he's lacking, there's no better league to get the experience from him. Yes, it's a good shout, man. It remains to be seen.
Right, listen, Ray. Look, we'll park the Sancho thing off there for a while. There's no doubt we'll be talking about that.
When do you think he's gonna? Just last one. When do you think we're gonna see Sancho announced?
I don't know. Like it depends on United. Everything's there for them. The teams are great. Dortmund have told them what they want, so the ball's firmly in our court. So we'll see what way.
I think the minute England crash out, a couple of days after it's announced.
Yeah, that's grand. If that's the case, brilliant. If not, I just don't want to see it, rumbling on, like, because there's other players to be brought in. As I said, centre back. There's talk about bringing a right back in for cover for Wan-Bissaka and everything. In saying that, there's been talks there over the last couple of days where, Ollie's supposedly come out and says that he wants to try Wan-Bissaka as a centre back. So does that mean that we're not getting a centre back this summer? We're going to try Wan-Bissaka in that position, which I think would be wrong. You know what I mean? Because
can win a header. Can you?
His distribution is not the best. His tackle is I think his tackle rate has been the highest in the last 3 seasons in Europe. You know what I mean? Which is great at right back because you can get away with that. But I don't think his positional sense is that great either, and I think he'd be caught out in a centre back position. And I just think if you're going to do that, then it should be tried at a different stage. Maybe at the end of last season, some of the games we were playing, maybe, you know what I mean? In the league, when it was, I don't think it should be done when we're starting off a new campaign, because as you know yourself, Ray, it seems like that you have to get off to a great start to stay in contention for the league. And there's no doubt that City will be up there again, Liverpool will be up there. But look, we're going to move on to our favourite subject, your favourite subject. Something that we've talked about loads of, a player that just can't stay out of headlines no matter what goes on, whether it's his fault or not. And that's Paul Pogba, Ray. And it's come out that he wanted to, his representatives were in talks with United over a new contract, which when I seen it, I was like, right, you'd take it. You don't really want to, lose him or whatever, because at the end of the day, he is a quality player. I'm not going to say world class. But then it came out then from Pogba himself to say that there was no talks in place, and that he'd finished with the Europa League final and went on a little bit of a break before he joined up with France for the Euros. So again, here we are. There's a lot of talk about Sancho. Wages 350 grand a week, and then we've conflicting stories coming out. We've Sky coming out and saying that Pogba, new deal on the cards for Pogba, and he's willing to sign it or whatever, or not willing to sign it, putting words in that mouth, but just talk on the table. And then we've Pogba himself saying that there's nothing going on. And I don't know whether he's doing it because he wants apparently 400 grand a week. So are we painting ourselves into that hole again? We were giving players way over the odds, or where are you with this Pogba team?
I don't know. I'd seen the thing, the interview, and I was just hoping, like, he's just saying that because, he's instructed to say those sort of things, because you don't want reporters every time, even, after match interviews coming up to you and saying any news on what you said, how's the progression of the contract, our respect for your national team. You'd want to be just saying, no, there's nothing going on, and that's it. But what am I worried about with Pogba is that he could be, holding the team ransom here and not doing that and just seeing that contract out, and you can't have that either.
Why that way? Why?
Because you're missing out on money then.
But you know what?
Like, if you're the club, you want to know what's happening right now, so you can get your best deal out of it. And that's the business side of things. That's the business.
But I think that's what's wrong, Ray. I come with it the other way. I'll probably get slaughtered. People probably saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. But I look at it and I say to myself, like, we paid 89 million for him in 2016. It was a 5-year deal with the the option of a 1 year extension. We got that last year. We triggered it last season. So this season could be his last. So why would we be panicking to try and get rid of him? If he stayed and then ran his contract down and left on a free, have we got 89 million worth out of him over them 6 years?
Well, you got it back in jerseys in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is,
on the pitch,
would we be struggling? Like, should we rush out to sell him to the highest bidder? Because like, how much would you even get for Pogba at this stage?
Look, I'd say if you're the club, Glenn, and you'd want at least 40 million for him, 50 million considering where we're at,
But if that came about where you're saying, 40 million, so if he turned around and said to United now tomorrow, look, I'm not going to sign a new deal, I'm going to run down my contract, should we turn around and say, okay, we're going to sell him for 40 million and bring in a replacement? Or should we say, do we have a better chance with him and Bruno and whoever else we bring in the squad to, again, sustain a title challenge and maybe bring a trophy back?
Yeah, but look, I'm a big Pogba fan, and you know that. But if a player did that, Glenn, that's disrespect towards your manager, towards your teammates. If you're not out there and you're putting yourself out there and you're, giving your intentions, showing your intentions, and saying, I either want to be here or I don't. I'm not going to do a smart one and let me contract run out, because I don't like that. That's one thing I hate, and I don't want it to come to that. I'd rather them say, look, I had enough time here. I'm looking at myself as a player, if I'm Pogba, and I'm saying I could have been in these big games that other players are taking part on, and I didn't do that. We United, I stayed here and I battled through the hard times. You know, I had to play with Pereira in the middle at times. I had to play with Lindelof centre back, and I put up with it. You know what I mean? Because he's that. You know, you don't say he's world class, but he's been involved in world class teams with France. He's won the big ones. You know, but every time in that French team, he's had some quality players around him, and I'd hate for that not to be the case at United, where we're saying Roy Pogba was here, and we never had a world class team, bar 1 year where we finished second, when we were slightly close with Mourinho, and we were still a mile off City. But he had a good season that time, you know. But other than that, Glenn, he had to put up with scrap, man. Players that weren't there, and when okay, they were good and upcoming players, but they weren't at the stage we're at now. The likes of Luke Shaw, you know, when he was getting all that stick, you know, he pulled through and he's there. A lot of different examples. He had to play with the low, man. You know what I mean?
No, yeah. You had to
You're
play with the
thinking
low.
like, and plus he had his ups and downs. Don't forget, he had a couple of injuries. He's been out. You know, you always say, the COVID. He had the COVID. You don't know how you come back from that. There's no scientific proof to say how you actually come back as an athlete from that sort of, because it affects your lungs. You know, we've heard a lot. I'm not. I don't want to make excuses for him, Glenn, either. You know, honestly, I'd feel like we lost out if we didn't put a team around Pogba and Bruno now that could get us to where we need to be, because that's what it takes, and we've seen it all around us. These teams, City, Chelsea, Liverpool, no, they had an upset. You know what I mean? Bad season.
Well, right. If he does run down his contract, obviously he'd have to say to Ollie or whoever, John Moore or whoever is dealing with the negotiations, look, I'm not going to sign a new deal.
What would you do?
That puts the ball in the club's court again. But I turn around and I'd say to myself, voice the club, right? We're at the paying 89 million for him for 6 seasons. Let's get the 6 seasons out of him. You know, who's to know that we can't build a team that would, you know, make Pogba better or make Pogba flourish this season? We don't know that. But we'll just go to Wijnaldum from Liverpool. Like, you know, he went down his contract. He got a guard of honour. Now, I know he won the Champions League, he was integral in that, and won the Premier League and everything, but he's gone to PSG, like. So I don't see a problem in players running down their contracts, because I think that's the biggest problem. Well, not the biggest problem, but a big problem in football, that, you know, you buy a player on a 5-year deal, and then it comes to 2 years into the contract, and you're trying to tie him down again, because if it gets to the last 2 years, you're looking about how much money you can make off him. Do you know what I mean? Like, a club like United, I know it's a business and there's money to be made and all that, but why not just keep him till the end? If he didn't want to sign a contract, just keep him, because the next contract he signs, Ray, is probably the biggest one he's going to sign. You know what I mean? The last big one he has, really, in terms of years and terms of wages.
Some of his demands are huge, and you know, we're talking about Sancho getting 350 million. He's going to be looking something above that. You know, you're not going to.
Yeah, he's looking for 400 grand. And
if you're that big-headed, Glenn, you know, if you're that big-headed, are you going to accept the fact that, look, if you just bought a player and he's 21 and he's on more money than me? You know what I mean? I know it wouldn't matter to us, but it matters to them.
I just think that it's mad the way, you know, Sancho's been in the headlines, United want them, all that sort of thing. It's been quoted that it's 350 grand a week. And now you've Pogba, you know, talks on the table, not on the table, and, you know, he's quoted that, you know, wanting 400 grand. Like, do you know what I mean? It's, you know, this is just typical Pogba sort of stuff. I don't think anyone's worth 400 grand. I don't think anyone's worth 350 grand. Obviously, what Pogba is going to want to be the highest paid player at the club. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it puts us in a difficult position. But again, you look at what happened with Sanchez. You know what I mean? He was on 450 grand a week.
Yeah, what happened there? On the bench,
I just don't think that Pogba's proved that he deserves that wages. That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, I'm saying he's not world class. That's just my opinion. That's not to say that he isn't world class. There's lots of people out there that think that he is, but I just think that he hasn't done enough in the United years at all to warrant 400 grand a week. That's the issue.
Just, you know, I look in the aftermath of it all, and we're after getting players in, and then you're missing that one player again. You know, who's that one player you're missing? Oh, it's Pogba. We just let him go, and that's the way I see it going. But I'd be happy if there was something in place and you got your bit of money off Pogba, you can put it towards another transfer. That's what you're thinking about, because that's where I'm coming from, because you know how this club operates, don't you? They don't spend more than 100 million, net spend or whatever.
Yeah.
So, if you're thinking, we're spending all our budget on Sancho this season, where's the other player going to come from? Where's that centre back going to come from? Where's, your holding midfielder going to come from?
That's the thing now, Ray. Look, if Pogba was to go this season, and again, I'm just going off social media posts. There's a lot of people saying sell Pogba and bring Jack Grealish in. That's just one name that was mentioned. What you reckon about
Jack
that?
Grealish, yeah, good player. Where's he going to play though? Rashford's not going to be benched. We're going to have that issue again. Bruno, same particular player, and then you Van de Beek there that could, wants to compete for that spot as well. If you're looking to get rid of Pogba, I'd say you're looking to get someone like Tielemans in. Because he's the player that can conduct the game from deep, and he has a goal in him. That's, at the moment, for me, that's probably the most similar player to Pogba. And the reason I liked him last season, but I was never sure he could sustain it for a whole year, and he has during last season.
Yeah,
he sustained it for a whole year, and he's come up with important goals, and it's perfect timing to go in for a player like that. Well, ended with Leicester. So if you're thinking, right, we get rid of Pogba and put that money towards the likes of Tielemans and one more sort of prospect player, like the likes of that, what's that fella's name? Phillips of
Leeds.
Of Leeds, yeah. I think he's going to be a good player, and he's comfortable in playing in there deep on his own. And, I think he'll shine this if he does get some time, hopefully. I think he's a good player to come. So I'd like to keep an eye on him if I was the club, you know what I mean? Keep an eye on that and bring in someone like Tielemans and see what happens, because you do need one player, two players to replace Pogba, I think, with what he can bring going forward,
But there you go again, there, right now. See, no, I'm glad you said that now, right? Because I was just bringing in what I'm saying on social media about players coming in. But here we are in a situation where you've Tielemans, apparently does a price on his head for 61 million, which I think that's well worth it, to be honest with you. It'd be money well spent, you know what you're getting. But then you've Grealish as well, who's English, Aston Villa's main player, obviously being English drives the price up. So you're probably looking in and around 70, 80 million for him, just because he's English. If Pogba was to be sold because he doesn't want to sign a new deal, you said we'd probably only get about 40 or 50 million. So that's not even enough for one of them players that we're talking about. Do you see where I'm coming from? That's why I'm saying you'd be probably better off keeping Pogba in the team and letting him run down the contract and letting him go on a free to wherever he wants to go. Do you know what I mean? Just to make sure that we've gotten everything we can out of him, really. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I would say it.
Well, this upcoming season's huge. We always say the next season's, but it's important because of what's at stake here. This could be Ollie's last year unless he plays his cards right, I think. We've seen if he doesn't get top 4, he's gone. And, and it comes down to now he's after putting even more pressure on himself, because there has been a little bit of progress now. We finished second.
Yeah.
So you're looking, if you're Ollie, you're saying, I need to keep what I have and add on to it.
Yeah,
and get rid of some of the players.
They caught up with us. And he only said in the press conference last season, I think it was before we played Leicester in the FA Cup, that you're judged on your league position rather than, trophies that you've won, because anyone can go and have a good cup run. I don't know whether you agree with that or not. I say a little bit different, obviously you are judged on your league position, but I think when you're at United, you have to go and try win trophies. I know we did, unlucky in the Europa League final in the end, anyone could have lost on penalties, but he did say that you're judged on progress on your league position, and I said to you when he said that at the time, I says, well, that is pressure going on to him, because if we do finish second, then there's only one position that you can finish the next season, and that's first. Now, for me, it depends on how we how we finished the season, like how like if he were to finish second after I'm just missing out on the title by a couple of points, then you can turn around and say, yeah, all these, you know what I mean, that's progress. But in saying that, like, I know where you're coming from, where he needs to have the squad that he wants to, get off to a good start, and I know that he wants Pogba to stay. Do you know what I mean? Like he's known Pogba years.
Because you're looking, Glenn, and you're saying like he believes in the youth there. You're talking about maybe Ahmad. You're talking about players that didn't get enough of a chance. Van der Beek, and I'd say he's believing that these players are going to build up that what it takes to try and push the team forward. And then you're looking and saying, where did we get let down? And it's the starting 11. We had gaping holes in the starting 11, the back four. The holding midfielder was an issue at times, and we don't know what he's thinking about that. That's big, and I don't know what to be thinking, because I know I like McTominay. I like McTominay, and some of the stuff that's been said about him by the top, football men at the club. They all praise him.
Yeah,
and
but
I've heard some other pro players say good stuff about him. You
have to have players in your squad for certain games. I like McTominay. I think he's come on leaps and bounds. I don't think he's a player at the moment that, again, you can be starting every single game. Do you know what I mean? That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
I liken him to sort of like the likes of, say, Darren Fletcher, who was a big player for United when he played for us, and he didn't play every game. Came in for games, and yet he did get a run of games as well at times.
You used to look at Fletcher and say, how is he getting into that team? There's obviously, that's when you probably don't understand the game, as much as you probably do now or whatever, you're not thinking. But then you realise that players like that in the team are important,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But I just, like, even when you look at the team selections last season and you look at McFred, they played most of the games because there is no squad depth. Obviously, Ollie couldn't, to me, it didn't seem like he could trust the whole squad. But for me, I think McTominay, no player is happy to sit on the bench, but I think, he's United through and through, and that he would understand a role where, he's played in certain games. Do you know what I mean? I don't think we're going to win a league or, do go far in the Champions League when we're relying on the same 11 week in, week out. It just doesn't work like that anymore. You know what I mean?
But, so we know that, we possibly think that Sancho's going to be done. What other position would you fill out if you only had one player to bring in? Who would it be? Would it be the centre back or the centre mid? Because that's where I'm coming from. I'm thinking if we bring Sancho in, there's only one more player coming in and possibly a backup. Right back. The Trippier's been talked about. Obviously, we'll get into that, but it's because they're going to obviously try and get rid of someone off the wage bill, maybe Juan Mate, so they could probably cover that, walk around that. But if we're talking about a player in one of them positions, it's obviously going to cost a little bit because you're looking at what we need, and it's a specialist, isn't it? So you think it's Sancho in there, say 40, 50, 60 mil if we manage to get that out, but highly unlikely. Who would you spend it on? Who would you go?
You'd need, for me, you'd need a centre back, right? You'd have to, because how many times we talked about Lindelof being weak, and it did not look. You know what I mean? Not to trudge on about Lindelof, but it did cost us a little bit. You know what I mean? Like
cost us, Glenn,
in the league,
the bullying. What was it? The West Brom game.
The West Brom game, the Fulham game. I know we. We won that. Did we win that game? I'm sure we did. But
he's a neat player, isn't he? He looks good on the ball.
The physicality of it, and I think it's centre back. If you were asking me, we'd probably go for a centre back. I know there's loads of talk about Varane, and we've talked about that and all. But if he was available, you'd have to try and go for him. They're talking about 40 million. Go get him. I was listening to Rio Ferdinand then talking, and he was saying then, Varane, great player, but maybe he's a little bit injury prone at this stage. You know what I mean? But he's only 28.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? With all that experience, or Maybe a man Pau Torres. I like what I was saying in the Villarreal game. I did like what I was saying from him. I know you were saying that he's comfortable in that setup and all, which is probably true. But yeah,
Just
centre back for
when
me.
Pau Torres, yeah, left centre back. You don't want to disturb Maguire. You're never going to disturb Maguire. You're going to be looking at that right centre back, and if they're working on it, the Varane deal, that'd be something else, because that's some player, man. I don't care if he's some player. He's won it all. You'd be confident enough going into any game knowing that he's at the back. Him and Maguire at the back, you'd be thinking, no one's gonna cause us trouble if it's straightforward. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's something special. You're coming up against teams that can hurt you, like City or Liverpool or whoever it may be next season, Chelsea even, you never know. But you're thinking, right, they can hurt you because they're capable of producing magic. But when you're coming up, anything beyond that, you're thinking we should have enough there. And that's the comfy side of football that you want in your team as a manager, innit?
Yeah.
You want to get to that stage, and he hasn't had that because he's making, don't know what he's doing. He's making bad choices, or he's definitely not getting backed. He's definitely not putting some pressure on the board, or he's protecting him too much.
No, he did come out though, Ray, and said that we do need a couple of signings. He did say that recently, so I reckon he's getting to that stage as well. He's probably seizing the opportunity, everything that's going on between the fans and the Glazers and all. He's probably looking at it and saying, "This is my opportunity to probably step out of my shell a little bit here, and my voice will probably be heard a little bit more because the fans,
I get what he's doing. You can't, we've seen it at the club. You can't go against the owners. You can't diminish. You say something about them, it's game over. But you'll be hoping. What I'm saying is that he's going in there and he's knocking on the door and saying, "Are we nearly there?"
Look, as we said, Ray, it's the Euros that's at the getting in the way this season for us.
It is, isn't it?
So hopefully, I'm thinking and saying, like as you said, when teams go out, get the deals that we want done. I mean, there's a great chance that the likes of Iran and all is going to go straight to the final because France probably have one of the strongest squads anyway in the tournament, the World Cup winners anyway. Yeah. So they might be going right to the end anyway. Do you know that way? Like, so probably won't be hearing that about Varane until at least July.
Yeah,
we'll see how that plays out. But look, the way we're at the main talking about defenders and all, Luke Shaw, Ray.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, was he Player of the Year this season? Had a great season, showed a lot of maturity and everything. But Jose Mourinho stepped out of the shadows there and came out and said that, if he was picking the team against Croatia or picking the team for the Euros, that he'd go with Chilwell. What do you think of that? Like, is this Jose being Jose? Is he holding a grudge against Luke Shaw?
Yeah, I think so. It's the only way I can say it, honestly. Like, what are you going off there? Like, have you ever, what do you like? You know what I mean? I know he's Jose, but I think it's bitterness, bro, isn't it? Like,
he's basically saying, Ray, that Chilwell's played well for the last 2-3 seasons. And although Shaw's done well this season and he showed a little bit more maturity and professionalism, that's what he said as well, that's why we go with Chilwell. But see that professionalism comment there, like adding that in there, like that's definitely, Jose angry at Shaw for something, like, do you know what I mean? Like, because what else
he's a bit bitter, man. He's a bit bitter. This will always affect him, I think. I lost so much respect for him because when he came in, he was the man I thought was gonna, bring in that, Jose player, and I was buzzing with it. And then you just start seeing what he was doing and how the dressing room, and I was just like, I can't, you can't deal with that. And then I saw the lost respect for him, and I hoped he'd get it back around, but it just, and even at Tottenham, I was thinking, like, I know when he came in, we were saying he could do it, and I was thinking, geez, this could be the one for him.
We thought that as well.
Yeah, I remember you saying it, and all the lads were saying it. I was like, yeah, could be, but we let him down. He's let himself down again in the same way, hasn't he? Really, like,
I just think it's mad the way he tried to sign Luke Shaw for Chelsea. you know what I mean? And Shaw picked United over Chelsea, and then he ends up at United with Luke Shaw there, and he just wasn't happy with Shaw, like whether it was the way he was applying himself in training, or maybe his positional sense sometimes in games was probably off a little bit. But he definitely seemed to hold a grudge. Like, remember he came out and he started saying it was his body and my brain and all that,
Yeah,
and everything. And
remember that?
then Shaw did win. I think it was Player of the Year in 2017-18. Which again shows you that he was sort of matured under Mourinho, but then he lost it again. That relationship seemed to break down then the next season with Mourinho again. But I just think it's mad the way he's taken that swipe at Shaw again. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't think Luke Shaw's the type that'll come out and maybe defend himself. That's not saying anything bad about him. Like, you just can't see Shaw coming out.
I'd say if he was asked, he'd say something to him. Like, he came, I think it was Luke Shaw said something. There was, I think it was Europa League, and Luke Shaw said something when he was a pre-press conference with Ollie, and he something was asked of him, and he said something and looked at the manager and laughed, and we kind of all knew that was a little slight dig at Mourinho, and maybe that was Mourinho's reaction to it. But do you see how funny it is? Like, why, if you're Jose Mourinho, why would you hold a grudge over that? You know what I mean? Just let it go, mate. Like,
why is he coming? Like, I mean,
like Jose Mourinho, just let it go. Don't, even if just let it go.
In fairness, though, Ray, he was asked a question. Like, he was, like, I mean, he's sitting there talking football. He's asked a question. You know what I mean? He'd probably come out and say, "Look, I just said."
I just know, Glenn. He'll always have something to say. He'll always, because it's Manchester United at the end of the day. Like, just to maybe play.
But you know what, Ray?
You want to keep relevancy going and stay relevant and remind people of where you were. And
he did come out and say he loved the United fans and all. He did come out and say that, dude.
Well, they were always.
He loved the United fans, and he
always heard the Jose name being sang around Old Trafford, even when people were even when the media was on his back and saying that enough is enough and it's this Jose's last game, and the fans he'd walk out and the fans would be screaming his name, So I don't know what I think the pat on the head as well when, by Ollie, when Ollie pat him on the head, and it's just it's only a little saga in itself, isn't it? This.
Yeah, well, Ray, as I was saying,
we will meet them again. I know for a fact we'll play them at some stage next season.
But in the same interview, Ray, Mourinho comes around and says, "Once you're me boy, you're always me boy." Meaning, you know what I mean? Like, Harry Kane was his boy, I suppose. He'll always be his boy. Maybe he's talking about John Terry, Lampard.
I think, Glenn, he's referring to the Inter days, to the Chelsea days, to them big characters that were in. We seen, Materazzi hugging him and crying, and Frank Lampard talking, John Terry talking about him. And I think the game has changed, man. There's that player power now where you don't need the manager's approval anymore, because there's so many different people in that dressing room that, that we're talking stats now. That's important. Everything is done off a laptop now. So the stats are going up to the big men, and they know, like, if I'm pulling off decent stats here, you're not going to be able to keep me out of the squad, because big man from upstairs is going to be down to say, put him back in the squad. It's working. Do you know what I mean? So back in the day, you had these players that needed that affection off him and needed that connection, and he just fed off it. It suited his personality and who he was, as a manager.
Yeah, Ray. Look, just looking at him in that interview anyway, on TalkSport.
I didn't say it, Glenn. I bet you're getting this sort of.
I feel like he looks refreshed, man.
He reminds me of that Phillips.
To go with games, bit of banter about him. I thought, you know what I mean?
Personalities, It's like when he's out of a job, he has a different persona. When he's in a job, he has a different persona. It's just. I personally got tired of it. I've nothing. You know what I mean?
Well, look, it'd be interesting to see if he does that wrong, man. Especially the fact that he's in for Granit Xhaka.
Yeah.
I mean, supposedly that deal's done and dusted. He's on his way to Roma, like, which I was surprised with. I don't see
taken Matic.
Huh?
I thought you could have taken Matic.
Yeah. Probably still can, Ray.
Probably
I was
take
just thinking
Mata.
about this there, yeah.
Imagine this is a typical move for Mourinho to take Mata. You know, a player that he never really, you know what I mean, gave a chance to until he needed him. And now to be still Mourinho, he'd go for someone like Mata, you know?
Well,
How do
I
you
mean,
explain
Mate would be on a free anyway and all, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think Roma have that much money to spend, like, but it'd be interesting to see what way.
Well, there's talks about your man Pellegrini replacing Wijnaldum. You know, he played well against us. So they're going to get a bit of money for him. So they'll have, you know, they could break that money apart and bring in, you know, overage players that could do a job for Mourinho and get him into the position where you can get more money next season and, you know, try and build until he says something in the media that's just going to destroy him.
You know, you're looking and you're saying Roma haven't won the league and all that. What was it 20 years, is it? No, it's 20 years now, I think. The last time they won it was under Capello. Patty still didn't know I was playing and all that. So it'd be just like Mourinho to go there and win the league, but he is up against it. You know, Inter, Juventus and all obviously come back stronger, but that's definitely Ray.
It's a good time, Glenn. I'd argue and say it's a good time for him to step in there because there's disruption in the Inter, you know, manager gone. Lukaku might be gone. Chelsea could be there again, you know, taking him back. And then you'd have other players wanting to leave. And then Juventus have a hit and miss last season, you know what I mean? This seems like they're going through some tough, you know, times even though they're still playing well, but for their standards. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he came in there and made it a good push. But
Yeah.
I don't think it'll last. That's all.
I'm going to keep my eye on that rail. Yeah, I'm fascinated to see where it was because you know you look at the way he was let go by Spurs. I think that was bad idea by Levy to let him go just before the cup final, especially given the fact that you know Spurs haven't won that in a while, and never mind even if he thought that they weren't going to win it. Like I just think you know you're
Yeah.
putting Lucha Roy Mason in there, just give Mourinho the chance to go and win something because he did get them to the final. But I thought it was very interesting the way he took the Roma job basically straight away, and he was asked by, I think it was Gary Cottrell outside his house in London, like, you know what I mean? He going to take a break and all, and he was like, oh no, I'm always going to be in football and all this sort of stuff. And it's like he knew there was something going on in the background for the Roma job. It was just mad how quick he took it. So I'll definitely look at him next season and see how he's getting on. Like, and to be honest with you, I hope he does well. I know fans don't really like him because of his style of football and everything, and that heritage comment and all that he made, but he's a character, like, so hopefully, you know, I hope he does well, you know what I mean? And if we do come up against him next season, which we shouldn't, because they're going to be in the Europa League, so we should be getting out of the group stages of the Champions League, you know what I mean? So we shouldn't go near. But if we do meet them in the future while he's there, you'd obviously be hoping that we get the win. But right, listen, come here. I want to move on to something that's a bit closer to home, right? Because today, it's been shown all over social media again that on Fenian Street in Dublin 2, Paddy Power are at the putting up a memorial of Jack Grealish and Declan Rice and, you know, the St. George's Cross and all that, because, you know, they want us to support England in the Euros. And I'll tell you why they want us to support England in the Euros, but I just want to show you this picture here. Have a look at this, right? In the middle, in the smack bang in Dublin 2. Look, have a look. Here we are, look. Come on, you boys in white. Grealish and Rice. Now, obviously, the connection there, Ray, is that these are both players that played for Ireland and then, you know, switched to England, like, which are entitled to do.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
what do you think of that, Ray? What do you think of that?
You know, there'll be people keeping an eye on England, no doubt, you know, because some of their favourite players are on that, but I think that's mad.
But listen, I'll show you something.
Trouble.
I'll show you something now, right? Here's the advert for Paddy Power, right? It's Eamon Dunphy and Damien Delaney. Have a look at this, Ray. I think it's gas. Eamon Dunphy, brilliant. Have a look at this.
Look, I've had some harsh words for Irish football in the past. Pitiful, shambolic. But I promise you, it was tough love. I love Irish football so much, I'm cheering for England this summer. And before you get smart, I'm not losing my mind. Every time England score at the Euros, Paddy Power will donate 10 grand to Irish football. And it won't be funding any James Bond themed birthday parties. Isn't that right, Delaney?
No, different, Delaney. But yeah, the money will go straight to real local clubs with real financial needs, and it could be your club. Get in touch by email, social media, and let us know how much your club needs and what it needs it for. The more entertaining, the better. Whether it's to buy new bibs, fix a leaky roof, or get the team bus back on the road, every English goal will add 10k to the kitty. You might get a little bit sick in your mouth, but if you love Irish football, you should celebrate every England goal like it's one of our own.
You need a shower after that.
Let's hope they lose 4-3 in the final.
Oh, stop, Ray. No, but no, I think that's gas. I think that's brilliant. To think Eamon Dunphy's class. And to think that that's the Bray Wanderers Stadium, that is, the St. George's Cross covering the whole pitch. But the thing is, Ray, there's been a lot of people on social media and all, slamming what's Paddy Power doing, it's, we should be supporting England, all this sort of stuff. But what I think is fascinating about it is that Paddy Power is saying that, we want England to score as many goals as we can, because every goal that England scores, they're going to donate 10 grand to grassroots football.
That's
which
great.
Is great. And listen to this is great. They call it the double backstabber, right? Because if Rice or Grealish scored, they'll add 20 grand to the
Oh, that's good.
It's
a good shout, that, isn't it?
I think it is, right? Look, I'm not going to turn around and sit here and say, look, I'm supporting England. But at the end of the day, we support an English team. And look, if England weren't in the Euros, it's not as good. They do bring something to it. The media hype, the fans going over, getting locked out of their heads. I'm not saying it's great to start trouble around, but you know the way they go on. We win one game and it's coming home and all. The fact that it's in England and everything, like,
it's close to home, isn't it? Like, you can relate to it. You know what I mean? Okay, when it comes to all that stuff, it's you don't want to go near that other stuff. But on the football pitch, it's great. I keep my eye on them anyway, and keep an eye on the football and see what they do. You know what I mean? There's always that hype, and yourself, they build it up to the max, and what are they gonna do? And it's coming home and all, and
it
but I
does.
think that's a good shout, Glenn. I think they're donating money to grassroots football in Ireland, which is they're on their knees at the moment. When you're hearing of local joints of clubs, falling and going under and struggling and all, and that's mental. Hearing all that about these clubs. So, hopefully you can dig out the next club that's finding it hard, man, to keep the lights on, the floodlights on.
Yeah, no, right. It's look, what they're saying is, you get in touch with Paddy Power and you tell him what you need. If from the money in the kitty, and he'll spread it out. I think it's Eamon Dunphy and Delaney that are in charge of the money and all, like, do you know what I mean? So he's saying that it'll definitely go to grassroots clubs that need it. But just the way we're talking about that, you're looking at the Euros race starting tonight. Italy took the first match, Italy unbeaten in 26 games. But, on the England front, like, what do you reckon? Like you said earlier on that people are saying quarterfinals and no more, but I think England are in a good shout to
you can't say. All jokes aside, they could go a long way. You're thinking of the teams that can't beat them, France, obviously. I think of Belgium, and a lot of people are sleeping on Belgium, but they have a great squad.
Yeah.
Who else? Croatia. Croatia.
That's England's first game as well. Croatia's England's first game,
They're aging side, but they know how to win games at that level. Yourself. They've been around up there in last competitions. Modric class.
45 though, Ray, still got it in him.
Yeah, you never know with the right system around him, where he's not, he needs them legs. He can be, you know what I mean, still a top player. I haven't seen, to be honest, I haven't seen much of him. I haven't watched
him the last game of the season. He looked all right, you know what I mean? It looks like time's catching up on him, to be honest.
Yeah, he hasn't been really in the Real Madrid squad, but he's still, you think it could be one of his last. You think he could pull something out and leave it all out there. You never know. But yeah, Portugal, you know what I mean?
Portugal, man. He's defending champions.
So is he going to be able to get past Portugal? Can they be Portugal or France?
Ray, look, when you're looking at it, you'd probably say no. But the thing that England have gone for them is that Gareth Southgate seems to know what he's doing in that job, and I think he's the first manager England have had in a long while that's confident going into tournaments and knows what he wants. He's not listening to what the media want. I mean, you look at, remember Sven Gordon Eriksson and all, he wouldn't pick any different team. Lampard, Gerrard, the whole lot of them were, Rooney, the whole lot were, you know, in that squad, no matter how they were performing. You look at Roy Hodgson, what happened in what was it, Euro 2016, going out to Iceland and all, do you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't seem to fit. But you look at Gareth Southgate now and all, and he seems to be picking players on form. He's going his own way. He got to the semi-final in the World Cup in 2018. This tournament's in their own backyard, do you know what I mean? Like, I like what I'm seeing from him. Like, I thought it was mad that he brought in 4 right-backs at the time, you know what I mean?
That's what I'm thinking.
He's not afraid to do something like that, you know what I mean? Which is something that England managers don't normally do.
4 right-backs and another 3 centre-backs or whatever he did, and thinking he's going to be very defensive, or he's trying to do something that we've seen from Pep Guardiola do when managers start thinking the game is a lot more than it should be, you know, where they start trying to invent some of this stuff where they play players out of position. And you hope, you know, it's not the case, but I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to, you know, load the team up with defenders and have...
Does he go? Yeah. Does he go with 3 centre-backs, right? Does he?
Yeah, I think he does.
He's going 3-5-2, like, because that worked for them in 2018, like, you know what I mean? But
yeah, you think, you know, Shaw probably play there. You know, if you want to have the 2 of them in the team, you know, Chilwell, if you're talking about Chilwell as Mourinho was, you'd have the 2 of them easily in the team. Shaw played there, you know, and Maguire won't be fit for a while. So that's his position. So you're thinking Shaw could start off there easily, and you could have Stones in the middle, and then, what's his name, Walker.
Walker played that position right as well.
Yeah, so,
you know
what I mean? Like Stones, is he the best central defense? Would you trust him, you know, to keep
the back line, right? That's the problem, innit? Like, you know what I mean? It's the leadership.
He had the good player beside him, you know, in for Manchester City, and he looked good. But when you have players that you need to take care of, you know what I mean, that could be a bit too much to ask for England.
What about that chap Ben White, Ray? See, this is the
thing. There's a lot of talk about him.
What?
There's a lot of talk about him, isn't there? And there's a lot of talk that he's on one of our list for centre backs if it doesn't work out with Varane and Koundé. And I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of them, but you know, I've seen a picture. I think it was flicking through. And he had a recent rise up to the English squad, you know, lately. And the minute he got into the English squad, his price tag went up. You know, a lot of people.
Brighton want 50 million for him. I think Arsenal are probably in for him at this stage. Like, that's what's going around. Arsenal are in for 50 million. I know Arsenal fans are not really happy with that because they're saying like 50
million. He played centre mid for a while. He played holding for Ting, and he did it for Brighton as well. So you know, could be one of them things where one of the bell rings in Glazer's heads. You know, I started thinking they're footballing men now and say, oh, we could kill, you know, 2 birds with 1 stone here. We could bring in Ben White, and we could have a replacement there for a centre back, and then we can, you know, experiment with the holding position as well. So you never know. That's why it's so fascinating. And the tension just builds more and more, doesn't it, as it goes on, the transfer window goes on. And I hope it's not one of them where we're into the last 3 or 4 days and we've no one in. You know what I mean?
That's the fear, right? That's my biggest fear at the moment, that we don't bring in the players at the right time, and then we're struggling to get them into the team, get the match fitness, all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, just let's get them in and let's get it right. But just before we go there, like, does Rashford start for England in the first game against Croatia?
I'd say he does. Like, it's not that they're struggling for people to fill that position up, but I'd say he does. I'd say he's gonna, you know, try it at least. Try it for the first hour and see how he gets on. Anyway, I think they're gonna try and get everything they can out of him. Don't think they care what happens when he leaves this camp and goes back to United. You know what I mean? I think they're going to do everything, and he's not going to be turning around and saying, "I'm actually, like, I'm done."
Well, no, and that's something Rio Ferdinand came out and said. He was like, "Look, if I was Marcus Rashford, I'd have a meeting, I'd call up Michael Owen and have a coffee with him, and, you know, talk to Michael Owen about getting born out at such a young age and what it does to you, and potentially could wreck your career, really, because that's what happened with Michael Owen. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
You know, we're looking at Rashford playing through injuries all season. United were doing it to him. That's why I don't think United have a problem with him going to the Euros. I think that was probably an agreement between Rashford and Ollie that if, you know, he played through the pain barrier and he was able to go on the pitch, that we wouldn't have an objection of him going to the Euros and then, you know, after the Euros having an operation, because that's what I think that's what's getting said is going to happen when after the Euros going to an operation. That's why I think Sancho might be even on the cards even more. You know what I mean? Because we might be without Rashford for 4 games this season.
Good show.
But I think England are gonna get the win over Croatia. I think they're a young, vibrant team.
You thought you were going to say I think they're going to win it.
No, I just think against Croatia, you're looking at the young legs, Ray, and all the likes of Mount, Foden. I mean, Foden, I'm expecting huge things from him.
You can't sleep on them players, man. You can't sleep on Mount. I've always said it. He's quality, man.
Yeah.
You can't defend that. I know Foden is lethal in his own right, but I think Mason Mount should get the nod over Foden. I think.
Really? Do you reckon, Ray? I think Foden's unbelievable. I think Foden's the best young English player there's been. I'm going to say, I don't think he's even better than Rooney at that age. I really do, man. I look at him when he just glides past players. He's holding players off and all. Like that game when he's playing against PSG, you know, holding the likes of Verratti off and all, man. You know, that's not easy. It's not easy.
No doubt, man. But I don't know what it is. I prefer. I know where you're coming from. That he can go on to be one of the world class players, and so can Mason Mount. But I think Mason Mount right now, the form that this fella's in, I think he's unstoppable, man. He's that ace up your sleeve, man, with the pace and running at defenders like that. Jesus.
Right, well, come here, Ray. Listen, well, I don't want to get your predictions for the whole tournament because Rory's not here, and you know, I want to see what Rory wants to do.
I'm going to give it to you anyway. I'm going to try and get it in there.
Who are you going for then? Go on, get it in there. Who are you going for?
I'm going to go with France, is obvious one, right? But I'm going to pick top goal scorer as well. And this might surprise you.
Go on.
I'll go for Griezmann.
Griezmann, top goal scorer?
Yeah. I know it's some shout. You know, he's muck. But I'll go for him.
I don't know. Like it's a difficult one to call. It's hard to see past France, to be honest with you, just because, you know, they're the world champions and all. They brought Benzema back into the team and everything. I'm not going to pick France because you did. I'm going to go Portugal. I'm going to go Portugal. I think people are forgetting about Portugal. You know, you're looking at Ronaldo. He has nothing to prove, but you can be guaranteed that he will. You know what I mean? This could be his last tournament, really. You know what I mean? If we're thinking about it, you look at Bernardo Silva, Cancelo, Diaz, that chap Pereira sitting in the middle and everything. Jota. You know what I mean? So I'm going to go. I'm going to go Portugal to win it. Retain that title. I don't have a top goal scorer yet, Ray. I'll probably let you know when they're into the tournament.
We should throw a few quid in the pot with the lads.
Yeah. Sure. But they're trying to get blood out of a stone now, then we stop. Wasn't David McDermott there? Wouldn't give the tenner for them Christmas lights on his road or something, was it?
You'll probably win it though, do you know what I mean? And you'll have to pay him.
Oh, stop. No, but here, listen, Ray, we leave it there, bro, yeah?
Cool,
we'll be back next week.
First live show?
Yeah,
first live show, what? Fair play, Glenn.
No, here, listen, hopefully we're back with Rory next week. He's away with the Ma.
Do you know what? Yeah, hopefully. But I have to split because she's at the door. She's not easy to get in.
I see that now. Look, but anyway, look, we're back next week. Like us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and give us a YouTube channel, subscribe, and enjoy the weekend of football. And we'll talk to you next week.